Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Igor Ledochowski. He is a former lawyer and Fortune 500 consultant. He evolved into a renowned hypnotist and educator, and he is the co-founder of the Hypnosis Training Academy. Can you say hi, Igor?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here, Brigitte.
I'm I'm so glad that you were able to get on this call because I think what you're doing is helpful. It helps people. We hold ourselves back for some reason. And I was just curious what prompted you to go from an attorney and a consultant to a hypnotherapy?
Therapy. Yeah, well, it's a question. It's a fair question. Where my law firm grows nuts. Here's a big thing, right? I was always kind of on a track to law because it's a career you can get into your mind. And I was very lucky. I ended up working one of the top law firms in the UK, an international law firm. So we hit the cream of the top, right? And I had interesting work there as well. But I found myself not being so fulfilled there. There's a couple of things that happened. One, I was basically moving money from one account to another. I was doing international banking, basically. So I wasn't that part fulfilling on the one side. And then the big crunch point came when I had one of the partners in my department, really nice guy, super smart, I really admired him. He was going through a rough patch. He was sort of sleeping on his desk and so on. And it turns out, through office gossip, that he was getting divorced. He'd had an affair with a HR lady and getting divorced. It's all very messy. I still like the guy, so I'm not trying to describe the niche, but I understand why it happened. And it shocked me and it forced me to relook at my life and ask myself, do I want to be a partner? And that was a question I never really asked myself before because I always assumed, well, that's what you go for. It's the big bucks, it's the good life, and so on, right? And then when I saw that and I looked at, what happened there, and I looked at the other partners, and I looked at myself and, all the flaws I was trying to work on myself and so on, I realized if I stay here, I think I'll just be very miserable. Maybe I'll make part, maybe I won't, but for sure, I will not be the kind of person I want to be. So the jump to hypnotherapy was in part to do something more fulfilling, but also in part to choose a career that allows me to work on myself and just be a better person, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. You want to be a better person. Well, when you don't, you're less likely to react to situations. Is that the right?
Yes, exactly. But if you spend all your time thinking about a subject, in this case, the idea of law, and nothing else, there's not much room left for thinking about yourself, about your character, about your values, about your behaviors, about your weaknesses, about the things you're proud of, the things you're not so proud of. You kind of get molded by your environment to a certain degree. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. It's just not who I wanted to become.
That's a good point. I like how you're saying that. You mentioned the environment that you're around does affect how you're going to
Yeah.
be in this world. And I've learned over the years to pause a lot in a situation because you don't want, I mentioned the word react. I'm guilty of reacting situations.
Well, it's all of us, basically.
Right. And so the hypnosis technique, it helps, to my understanding, it can help enhance your self-confidence, right? And belief in yourself.
Yeah. So here's the reason I chose it. All learning, all behavior, and all change happen unconsciously first. What do I mean by that? Think about when you first learned to drive a car or something, right? It was super complicated, right? You had the mirrors, the signals, maneuvers. If you learned how to drive the stick shift, then you have to figure out which foot is pushing on what pedal, what time, and what, there's so many little pieces to the art of driving. But then after a while of doing it, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, maybe it's longer, it automates, it becomes habitual, becomes unconscious, if you will. At that point, you can call yourself an actual competent driver. In other words, you're not good at anything. No change is really taking place until it becomes almost natural to you, shall we say, right? Until then, it's just an experiment, right? I mean, we've all gone on holiday, we've tried different things, it's interesting, but then we go back home and we become ourselves again, if you will, right? So the beauty of hypnosis is it's the ability to talk directly to your unconscious mind or someone else's unconscious mind and essentially negotiate a better lifestyle, right? Update some habits and behaviors, change some more deep-rooted fears or beliefs or concepts, And the output of that is your behaviors change, your feelings change, your thoughts change. You just interact with the world differently because you're different internally. Are you familiar with the concept perception is projection?
Right. I've heard of that. Yes.
Right? And basically what it says is your inner world, which is really your unconscious landscape, is what you project into the outer world to make sense of it. So if you have a horror-bound internal world, you'll see horrors and dangers in front of you, in the whole world. If you've got a peaceful, calm inner core, then you'll see the world as peaceful and calm with maybe, yes, some risks, but, nothing that can be managed. And that's why I went for hypnosis, I think, because it goes directly to the roots of the part of the mind that creates what we perceive of as real for us. And I wanted a reality that was peaceful, it was fun, it was, successful. And so hypnosis was the tool that I went for because of it.
That's awesome. What you're saying, it can help influence your emotions and your thoughts and your behavior. And it's something that we should talk more about, actually, and people don't for some reason.
Great. Yeah. Because look, a lot of people assume that their automatic thoughts and their automatic feelings are them. So if I have a horrible thought about someone, let's say I meet you and I have a horrible thought about whatever it might be, right? I think, oh my gosh, what a bad person I am to think that thought. As opposed to realizing that's just a random thought, right? It could be cryptomnesia, which is something I heard somewhere and forgot about. It just popped out without me even realizing it, right? It could be other people's ideas that it just made its way through my mind. And it's not actually my idea. It's just a thought. I need to be able to separate myself from my thoughts and my feelings. These are useful tools. But if I don't separate myself, then I over-identify with my thoughts and my feelings. And then that's a recipe for disasters. If every feeling I have is me, then two things happen. First of all, what happens when I stop having that feeling? Do I stop being me? Right? And second of all, I get consumed by it. I don't have perspective anymore. I can only see through that thing. If I'm upset, then everything in the world is wrong. And that's a really dangerous mindset to allow yourself. I'll get upset, don't get me wrong. But when I'm upset, I realize that, okay, I withdraw from the world, but there's nothing wrong with the world, right? I might not want to talk to you today because I'm upset, but there's nothing wrong with you fundamentally. And instead of telling myself a story of how bad you are for upsetting me, I can take responsibility and say, okay, I now have to find this part of me that's getting upset. And there's clearly something I need to do here to work on it, to improve myself, as opposed to blaming you for what's happening inside me, which is just crazy. But let's face it, a lot of people do this, right? Especially nowadays.
Right. And that could definitely trigger the other person as well. And you're going to get a negative.
Right? I react badly to you, react badly to me. I said, you see, I told you she was no good. But you and I attack you. Now you attack me. I told you, my God, that woman's worse than I thought she was. But what we're doing is we're just, when you take a microphone and put it too close to a speaker, you get that crazy feedback loop and everything explodes, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens when two people who over-identify with their emotions get together.
Wow.
Right? My bad, this is your bad, this is my bad. And then before we know it, we're at each other's throats thinking that we're both evil people, whereas we're just people. And we never need to get to that point.
Right. I think that is really great. I like the analogy of the speaker thing, how you just don't know how everybody's day's going, right? And that's kind of, I always believe just being kind or nice in a situation is because you don't want to cause a chain reaction.
Yeah. Right. But if for nothing else, out of purely selfish reasons, being nice is the most selfish choice. Why? It increases your chances of cooperation, collaboration, and it reduces your chances of conflict and worse still, creating some kind of feud with someone, which can last, decades, generations even, right? So I agree with you completely.
Well, that's good. I was told back in the day, Igor, when I was younger, I wasn't going to be successful in business because I was too nice.
No.
And I'm like, what? Right. And like, how is that a bad trait? But I was being myself. It did make me feel bad, but at the time, but then of course I left that company.
But yeah, maybe I can address that a little bit and draw a distinction. I draw a distinction personally between being nice and being kind, right? Being kind is doing something that's good for you. For example, if you have like spinach between your teeth and I say to you, you may want to go to the bathroom quickly and take care of that. you might feel bad for a second, but overall you'll feel good because you've actually removed a potential problem, right?
Right.
Now, if being nice, on the other hand, I'll just ignore it. That means for the next 2 hours, everyone you talk to will see this green bit of spinach sticking out and go, oh my goodness, I better ignore that, right? And then when you find out, when you go home, you see it and you go, oh my God, how long's that been there? Now you're mortified. So my niceness is not kind, but my kindness is actually usually nice. Or sometimes it's not, it doesn't look nice, but it's kinder. Overall, you're in a better place for that, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And kindness, and I think the reason it's important is because kindness allows you to set boundaries. That's what makes you good in business, by the way, right? The reason why, quote unquote, nice people don't do well in business is because they're pushovers. They have no boundaries. So you'll say, how much is $100? I don't want $100. What about 90? 1,800? What about 10 cents, right? You've been broken down by the people because you don't have any boundaries. But
Right.
If we take my distinction between nice and kind, and it's just a bit of an arbitrary, but it's useful, then I can set a boundary. I'd be very nice about saying, no, it's $100. And if you don't want it, that's totally okay. And be very kind about it. I don't have to make you feel bad about it. But at the same time, I can say, I'm not doing that deal. I don't want it. And there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think at the time I was only like 25 years old. Okay. So I was a recent college graduate and I was trying to be nice to people. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah. Look, I get it. It's and especially, there's a lot of business, especially in American, some American business are very, very aggressive, shall we say.
yeah, that's what they were.
See, it's push, drive. And I can see why they want that. But it is not the only formula for success.
Correct. And that's why I became successful in business because I was being me. And I can't be nice, but I also don't mess with me at the same time.
Right. Which is exactly what we talked about, right? You have clear boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? If you have boundaries, you'll play nice because why wouldn't you? But if you want to break those boundaries, say, no, you're now taking liberties here. This is my house, this is my business, this belongs to me. You can't mess with that. And so if someone's messing with it, of course your teeth come out. That's exactly what anger is for. It's designed to protect important boundaries, right?
I think I got angry. And I did see that vice president later, like a decade later.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was funny. And I was in New York being one of the speakers. And
Right.
I just thought it was funny that I don't know why he just expected people, like you said. I wanted to be a salesperson in New York, right? And I didn't know. I was 25 years old. And that's when maybe the way he said it to me offended me, but it was a good thing that it offended me because
Wonderful. It's fuel, right?
yeah, it fueled me to like, screw you. I mean, I didn't say it out loud, but
No. But that feeling that said, I'll show you, that's powerful feeling, right?
maybe he subconsciously did it to make me be my protection.
Maybe. Well, the other possibility is, and by the way, I think it's a very charitable way of thinking about him. I think it's a very nice way of thinking about him.
Yeah.
The possibility is that he's confused aggressions with persistence, right? Because persistence in business is an important quality.
Yeah.
A lot of people, that aggressive people are successful because they're aggressive. I don't think so. I think they're successful because they're persistent. And aggression and persistence are tied together.
Yeah.
And if you drop the aggression and just keep the persistence, you'll still be successful. You don't have to be an expletive to be successful. All you have to do is stick to it and keep going and drive and keep going until eventually you figure out all the parameters to make things work, right? So I can see where his mistake might have come from. And I like your mental reframe of he's doing it to help me succeed. I think that's a great way of looking at it.
Maybe I look back on it now, but then I wanted to give him the middle finger when I saw him in New York. But I mean, because I was angry for a while, to be honest.
Of course. But look, again, it shows a good example. Anger is just fuel. You can use it, right? Not only does it use you. If you spend the next 10 years just being angry,
Right.
well, then see you not being a very successful person.
Right.
But if that anger kicks in just when you're ready to give up, the anger comes up and says, no, I'm not letting him win.
Yes.
Then it's at the right point, right? Then anger is actually useful, right?
Right.
It's different between living with anger or using anger as punctuation to see you over important hurdles, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think he meant to be negative, but maybe he was just trying. I just laugh about that situation just because you use
He's just projecting his own worldview, right? He's learned himself that aggression has helped him be successful. But again, he's
Probably.
mistaking aggression for perseverance, right?
And I'm female. I was meaning there wasn't a lot of females in the industry. And so he's expected the men, being around men who are probably more aggressive. So it's not the right, but I worked out just fine. And I'm just
Congratulations.
thank you. I believe in, for some reason, my innate, like, I guess my mindset is to be yourself. Don't be fake, because it's back to bite you.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Everybody is, you've got this person, I guess this hypnosis that you're talking about gives you a persona you're putting out there as well.
Yeah. So here's another way of looking at hypnosis that really fits with what we're talking about here, right? Like a lot of people think hypnosis is this mystical state of being that suddenly you get channel all these magic powers and suddenly you are super awesome. I wish it was true, right? But it's not. The way I look at it is this. We all have a mask on that we wear to show the outside world who we are, right? And it's important, by the way, because the world needs to be able to perceive us, understand us, be able to predict how we're going to be. If you've ever met someone who's truly unpredictable, it's deeply unpleasant, right? If you're sitting at a bus stop, the person next to you starts muttering and twitching violently and jumping up and doing random acts.
Scary, yeah.
That's scary, of course, because it's unpredictable. And that means there could be violence or something else going on, right? So we wear this mask so the rest of the world can look at us and go, we understand where you're coming from. We know what you are, and we know where to put you in, right? But here's the problem. The mask is a very limited window of all of our potentials. And if we identify with this mask, the thing we think we are, then we've locked all these other potentials away from us. We can't do them. So in other words, to be, say, successful, for example, you've got to stop being yourself. At least that's the idea that people have. And they'll say, well, I'd rather be myself, which is very useful, of course. But then what they're doing is they're locking all these potentials away. But if you just see this mask as a tool, a social tool, shall we say, but the real you is much wider than that, much deeper than that. There's more to you than what you see when you look in the mirror. Then you start being able to access those potentials. When a potential suddenly emerges out of nowhere, you'll go, well, I guess I have that in me now, right? I'm sure you've done this yourself. Have you been to like a meeting or a situation which completely turns on its head? You didn't expect any of it. It should have fallen apart, but something inside you woke up right at the right point and said, hang on a second, go down this path. Forget the other path now. This is the way to go. Yeah. Right. Worked. That's an example of your potentials breaking through your limitations and master persona that you wear. It broke through and said, no, normally this is the track, but today this is the way you have to go. And of course, that intuition was correct. So in many ways, hypnosis is being able to access all these hidden abilities that we normally have locked ourselves away from and thus become lesser, right? I think most people have this innate sense that we could really be great if only given the right chances or right opportunities, the right people, the right whatever it is. And I agree with that thought. I agree with it. And even the opportunities and all the rest of it, those are all very possible. But the key part of it all is, it always comes down to you. If you can tap your potential, you will be great. If you can't tap your potential, it doesn't matter what opportunities come your way, you will fail regardless because you lock yourself away from your personal power, if you will. Make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think what you're doing is my understanding, you're not really a coach. I can't think of the word, but
it is. Actually, coaching is very similar to hypnotherapy.
Okay.
In the sense that, look, a lot of people think that hypnotherapy, and some forms of hypnotherapy do this, you say nice things, you give some suggestions, and then the person, goes down that path. And that's really, I call that a remedial change. You just put a Band-Aid on something, and then they'll fix themselves as they go along. They're all kind of changes I call generative changes. Those are the changes you make where you do a little change today that 10 years from now take you to a totally different place in your life. And coaching does a very similar thing because ultimately, remember, all learning, all behavior, and all change happen unconsciously first. What the difference between coaching and hypnosis is, in neuroscience, it's called top-down learning versus bottom-up learning. So top-down learning is when you very consciously keep your focus on what you want to achieve, and it happens over and over and over again. Just like driving a car, you keep repeating the skill, it's the attitude, the mindset, until it gradually seeps into your consciousness, and then it just kind of colors your soul. You become that kind of person, right? For bottom change, on the other hand, you're going straight to the unconscious. They say, let's have a look at all these untapped potentials. Let's activate one, see what happens, right? So coaching and hypnotherapy end up in the same place, but from two different directions.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It sounds very helpful what you're doing. And you have like a training program is my understanding. So is that just audio only, or is that?
No, kinds of. We have I have hundreds of programs, all for different things.
Okay.
For people in self-hypnosis, I have audio programs and video programs, like seminars. I recommend if you go to hypnosistrainingacademy.com and then just ask for some of the self-hypnosis products. We have customer service people. You can call them up, you can email them. They're around, I think, 24/7 or most of the time. And they can give you some advice. So for people who are interested in self-hypnosis, I'd recommend something like the Ultimate Self-Hypnosis Program. It would be walk you through all the interfaces. How do you talk to your unconscious? What happens? How do you respond to different things? And ultimately gives you personal experiences or your unconscious mind in action working for you. I think that's probably the easiest way for people to get a taste of what it wants.
I like that. So my last thought was, what is one takeaway for somebody who might need this kind of help, but they don't realize it? What do they have to think about? Or does that make sense? Or
So we going to help. What kind of
like,
thing?
do they need a hypnotherapy, or if I think people just hold themselves back.
They do. So let's always look at this, right? If you've got a problem that you can't solve, then by definition, hypnosis is the right tool. And here's what I mean. There are certain problems that are a class of problems that are very conscious. You solve them consciously, and those problems you have no problem with. As soon as you see it, you kind of work your way through it. At the end of it, well done, I'll move on, right?
Right.
There's another class of problems that are rooted with more unconscious, so we say complexes. Those are the problems that stick around. No matter how hard you try to remove them, they keep coming back, or you just keep failing. That tells you, I call it the law of prior effect. There is a pre-existing suggestion, idea, belief in your mind that's constantly sabotaging your attempts to change, shall we say. That's where hypnotherapy really shines. The complex problems you can solve consciously. And even a mediocre coach will help you solve conscious problems, because all you just have to do is focus your attention adequately and things get better, right? It's for those problems you can't solve consciously. That's where hypnosis shines, right? So on the problem side, if you keep running the same problem over and over again, then chances are hypnotherapy will help you fix the underlying mental misalignment, shall we say. But the other side is also true. If you were to reach a different level and you feel like you have to hit a glass ceiling that you can't quite break through, then I would suggest that you haven't tapped out all your hidden potentials. You've just tapped out the methods you know of getting into those hidden potentials. And again, that's where hypnosis can really help, because it can open up a whole new field for you to explore. And it might take years, it might take a lifetime, or you might take, a couple of years and come back and open another field up. You see how that would work?
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, it's very intriguing to me.
Please.
Yeah, I like this. And for those that are listening, you'd mentioned your Unleash the Power of Your Mind. You have audio and video training.
The Ultimate Self-Hypnosis. Ultimate Self-Hypnosis, yeah.
So I'll have those links included in the show notes and description. This is very, very helpful, even for me. You just don't realize it just makes you more mindful of what's in literally your mind and around you. And
Yes.
we need to talk more about this.
We have a couple of minutes left before we finish up. Is it okay if I give a quick exercise, a quick self-hypnosis exercise? You demonstrate what I'm talking about. Is that okay? I presume you've come across the idea of affirmations. I presume you are familiar with affirmations as a
Yes.
now, have you noticed that affirmations, when they work great, but when they don't work, they're awful? Have you noticed that sort of really strong dichotomy, right?
Yes.
I'd like to explain to you why that is and show you how to fix that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's start off with, give me a quality about yourself that you know is absolutely correct.
What about
A quality, like that you're a kind person, or you're a severe person, or you like people, or you're
very persistent?
You're very persistent. Perfect. So try this for a second. If you close your eyes for a moment and say, I am persistent.
I am persistent.
Notice how your body reacts. There's actually an overall pleasant feeling, and there's a rightness to it, correct?
Mhm.
So what you just done is you've affirmed a prior idea or belief that you're persistent. And so that strength becomes stronger. So if you were a little persistent and you affirmed it, over time it become more persistent. Does that make sense?
Correct.
That is that right. Let's look at that's the easy affirmation. What I want to do is fix the affirmations that you desperately want to be true, but they just won't. I did know it's wrong. So give me an example of something which you wish were true about you, but you just know it's not. Like maybe you're not very patient, or, saying I'm patient, I'm not really, or I'm, I don't know, full of happiness and overflowing with joy, or I don't know, something. What's then a concept like that you wish were true about you, but is not?
I guess that is the patient thing. Yeah, I am very patient. Depends on
Perfect.
the situation.
You just said it, right? So notice when you said that, how did your body, it reacted differently, didn't it?
I kind of, I was like giggling at myself.
Tension, there's a sense of there's some wrongness here.
Yeah.
Essentially, your unconscious mind knows you just lied to it and is rejecting the idea. So now here's the problem. The more you affirm that you are patient and your unconscious mind rejects it, you're actually building a sort of allergic reaction, a psychological allergy to being patient, right? That's why the more you say it, the more anxious you feel.
Oh, wow.
So that's something. Because the key to talk to your unconscious is it's got to be based in truth. So let's try this. Have you ever been patient in your life?
Yes.
Perfect. So would it be true to say that sometimes you can be very patient?
Yes, I can be.
Now say that to yourself. Sometimes
I can be. Yes, sometimes I can
and
be.
notice how your body acts totally different now. Have you noticed that? That internal conflict is gone. It's evaporated. It's now become acceptable. So what you're doing is, over time, you can shave that idea, the affirmation, sometimes I'm very patient, to be usually I'm very patient, to often I'm very patient, to I'm just very patient. It's going to be a gradual process, but you can't lie to yourself as you do that.
Right.
Always tell yourself the truth. But the truth doesn't have to be stuck in, well, I've never been patient, so I'm stuck with it. It might be as simple as, you know what? It's good to be patient, right? So if you've not got any patience yourself, but you aspire to being patient, then just affirming it's good to be patient is a starting point to start building that. The key here is you always, always, always have to check in with your internal thermostat.
Okay.
If your body feels good when you say it, it's accepted the affirmation, the suggestion. If your body feels bad when you say it, it's rejecting it, putting in layers of obstruction, making it harder for you to gain that experience in the future. So always things your body will accept.
I like the ways, the words that you're adding to it, how you're talking to yourself is helpful. And to just, I like how you're saying some of the I never thought about that. Some of the can be negative.
Go ahead. Sorry, apologies.
That's okay. Anyway, this is really helpful. I do, being honest with everybody, I sometimes am impatient. Sometimes that's why I said it depends on the situation.
Yes.
Yes.
But you see, now, instead of being stuck with it, like, well, I don't know why sometimes I'm patient, sometimes I'm not. Now you can actually affirm, talk to your unconscious, say, this is a good thing. The few times I'm having patience, I like it. Let's do more of it. Then gradually over time, your unconscious mind says, oh, I get it. I'll do more. And that's all that matters. It's called the law of attention, right? Where attention flows, energy goes, and that thing grows. So you just learned self-hypnosis in 5 minutes. Isn't that cool?
I like that. And it also just made me think back too. I've dealt with cancer a couple times, and that definitely made me appreciate what I had, right? Rather than the gratitude of what you have. And people always wanting more and more and more and more. And I've just gotten to like, it doesn't matter. You're still here, right? Because it's the environment, again, that you're with yourself in.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, culture.
So think this way. Your external environment shapes you, right? They usually get fit. The easy way to do that is join the army because they're going to make you fit. You don't have to have will. They'll give it to you, right? But then your internal environment is just as important. So what you just did with the affirmation about being patient is starting to change your internal environment just by starting to change the way you talk to yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, I love that. I like the positive, but like in layers, like you said, that is really helpful. And I'm going to go practice that.
Beautiful.
So I love this. I love what you're doing. You're helping so many people. And again, for those that are listening, I'll include the links that Igor mentioned in the show notes. And this is, again, so very helpful. And my husband will appreciate you helping me with my I have to throw in humor. So anyway, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope everyone's been watching, you've enjoyed this. And thank you for listening to me. I appreciate your time.
This is awesome. Thanks again.
Take care.